Thank you for watching WTAJ's Nittany Nation Rewind. Nittany Nation Rewind is proudly presented by Patterson Automotive.
You're watching Nittany Nation Rewind.
Welcome back. In 1974, Steve McCurry, a now world-known photographer, graduated from Penn State. Now, he's had a fascinating career, traveling the world and documenting history through his lens. Our Maggie Smolka shows us how McCurry's work lets people connect with the world around them.
We live in a world with almost 200 countries, a world with about 7.8 billion people. Think about the different cultures, the different stories. Most of us won't be able to experience it firsthand, so we turn to pictures, like these ones, to help us see across the globe.
So you would say that you have spent most of your time internationally?
Oh yeah, I would say that of my body of work, of my photography, probably 95% is outside of the U.S.
Steve McCurry is a famous photographer. His work has been seen around the world. Behind his lens, and oftentimes in risky situations, he documents pictures in hopes of capturing human emotions, images that will connect us all together.
How did you get a passion for photography?
I started studying cinematography at Penn State, and from that kind of led me to still photography.
McCurry learned the basics while working for Penn State's campus newspaper, the Daily Collegian. These clippings show some of his earliest work. About 4 years after graduating, he got a one-way ticket to India and never looked back. It was his published photographs during the beginnings of the civil war in Afghanistan that started to get him worldwide recognition. He crossed into the country, disguised, fully aware his life wasn't guaranteed.
You've been through situations where it's very possible that you could lose your life, and you go into them knowing, like, this is the risk that I'm willing to take.
Yeah, in a way I kind of feel like that every time I get on an airplane. I think, you know what, this is crazy, and I've been on hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of flights. In Yugoslavia, I was in a small plane and we literally crashed into a lake, and I found myself upside down, underwater, couldn't breathe.
McCurry has been known to capture areas of conflict overseas. But on September 11th, 2001, he didn't travel far. From the roof of his building, he captured the World Trade Center collapsing. He would then spend the rest of the day in the middle of Ground Zero.
Have you ever been scared for your life?
Well, yeah, many times. But I think at that point, you have to say to yourself, this is the life I've chosen. And I couldn't, if I shied away from this situation, I couldn't live with myself knowing that, yeah, this was a historic moment that needed to be documented.
He'll tell you he thinks of his photos like children. He doesn't have a favorite and loves each one for different reasons. But this image may be what he's best known for.
There's a real quality of her in that picture, of her not giving up and kind of moving forward despite all the adversity that she had to suffer.
The world-famous portrait, first featured on the cover of National Geographic in 1985, shows an Afghan refugee with piercing green eyes.
Did you know that you had something really special?
I knew when I made that exposure that this was something special, but it's such a fleeting moment that you're never quite sure. So I think it's I'm very proud of that picture, and something which will certainly be the first line in my obituary when I die, that Steve McCurry, the photographer who photographed the Afghan girl.
The world is a big place, and for those of us who can't see it all, we count on people like Steve McCurry, who see it through a lens. So we can all be connected beyond our own neighborhoods. In State College, I'm Maggie Smolka.
Moving on, you might have spent a little bit more time at home recently, and who knows when that might change. But our guy, Devin Jackson, introduces you to a place that might be even better than going to the game.
There will be football played here behind me at Beaver Stadium this season, as we found out last week. However, there will be no fans, but that won't stop Brian Harmon and his family from gathering at their Penn State house, just 10 minutes down the road.
When you walk into the Harmon household, every single inch of it is decked out with Penn State memorabilia. The pictures, the cardboard cutouts, to even a Joe Paterno-inspired room.
Both my kids went to Penn State, as well as my wife, so we all bleed blue and white. We built a 5-bedroom, 3.5-bath house to accommodate everybody.
Brian became more involved directly with Penn State through his daughter Jessica, who was on the cheer team. He took pictures before, during, and at major events during the football season, which led to many unique pictures that decorate the walls of the house.
Through that venture, I've been able to take some pretty good pictures of on-field activities, a lot of the, obviously the cheerleaders, the Lionettes, the mascot. I've gotten to know the mascot quite well, the last 6 mascots very, very well.
Among the PSU decorations lies a family heirloom, a table filled with pictures showing Brian and his wife Marcy's adventures at Penn State and their children's memories too.
We have some people in our hometown in New Jersey that do that as a kind of side business. So we asked them if they could do that for us, and they jumped at it. It's a treasure for us. It's something hopefully will stay in the family for a very, very long time.
Brian also told me if fans are not allowed to tailgate outside of Beaver Stadium, his family and friends will do so in the Penn State house. Reporting for Nittany Nation Rewind, I'm Devin Jackson.
All right, thanks, Devin. Coming up next, we give you a sneak peek on what to expect next week.